Good afternoon from the KUOW Newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with a roundup of today's top stories. It is Thursday, September 18th. Starting with very big health news, a new alliance of 4 West Coast states has released its first set of vaccine recommendations ahead of new federal guidance that's coming out this week. Eilish O'Neill has more.
Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii are releasing guidance based on the advice of major medical organizations because of concerns that federal guidelines are no longer based on the best available information and in some cases are contradictory. The guidelines more or less come down to everyone 6 months or older should get the annual flu shot. Pretty much everyone should get the annual COVID shot. As for the RSV vaccine, that's for babies under 8 months old and for adults over 75, as well as for some older babies and some younger adults who have certain health conditions. In June, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fired all the experts on the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee. He replaced them with new members, some of whom have expressed skepticism about COVID vaccines. Those new members meet this week and plan to discuss and vote on new COVID vaccine recommendations on Friday. Eilish O'Neill, KUOW News.
In major immigration news this week, a Supreme Court ruling permits racial profiling as grounds for immigration stops in Southern California. Specifically, ICE can use race, language, and type of work as grounds to arrest someone. It's news making waves nationwide, and immigration rights advocates held a vigil today in front of Seattle's federal courthouse in response. Gustavo Sugrero reports.
The recent Supreme Court ruling raises concerns that ICE could use racial profiling tactics anywhere, including Seattle. Palmira Figueroa is with the National Day Laborers Organizing Network. She was one of the groups represented at the vigil.
We don't want what happened in LA to come here. It's terrifying. It's violent. It's aggressive.
The vigil was part of a national day of action as the issue hits back to the court next week. The High Court ruling was temporary and seen as a big win for the Trump administration. ICE's crackdown on people in the U.S. without federal authorization is expected to grow. So-called sanctuary jurisdictions like Seattle are believed to be high on the target list. Gustavo Sugrero, KUOW News.
In a separate show of activism, protesters and kayaktivists, exactly what it sounds like, activists in paddle boats, interrupted yesterday's groundbreaking for a new shell house at the University of Washington. 2 of them were arrested, but not before they called on UW to divest from companies connected to Israel's war in Gaza.
If this disruption does not end now, you'll be at risk of penalties under the law and UW policies. This includes the criminal code and the general student conduct codes, which allow for suspension.
The university says the protesters on the ground and on the water don't appear to have any connection to the school. The cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel's late night show has hit a nerve with some congressional leaders. ABC decided to suspend his popular show Wednesday. Washington Senator Patty Murray wrote on social media that the president coerced ABC to kick Kimmel off the air. The plug was pulled after Kimmel made comments about MAGA and about capitalizing on the killing of Charlie Kirk. Congresswoman Susan DelBene says the FCC chair engaged in a corrupt abuse of power by urging for Kimmel's cancellation, and she says the FCC chair should resign. And Congressman Adam Smith today echoed what free speech advocates have said, which is that it sets a horrific precedent for broadcasting in the United States. Some outlets have supported the move, and Sinclair Broadcasting is directing its stations, such as Como TV, to air a remembrance of Kirk on Friday in place of Kimmel's show. Turning to a terrible crash, the Army says 4 people were on board a helicopter that crashed last night near Summit Lake in Thurston County. Casey Martin reports the helicopter was assigned to Joint Base Lewis McChord.
We don't know if any of the 4 service members survived the crash. The Army says they were part of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment on board a Black Hawk helicopter that went down around 9 o'clock Wednesday night. This is a rural area. Summit Lake is close to the Capitol State Forest. The Thurston County Sheriff said they found the crash site but couldn't continue with rescues because the area was on fire. People who live nearby posted online that they heard a helicopter flying low Wednesday, and on Thursday morning, smoke from the crash hung in the air. A spokesperson for JBLM said Army Aviation is investigating the cause of the crash. Casey Martin, KUOW News.
We're also following the bridge car jumper in Seattle. Seattle police are still searching for the driver who sped through the barriers on the open University Bridge, then jumped the gap yesterday. The driver was in a stolen vehicle being chased by police. The car has been located with a broken undercarriage, but the driver has not been found. In health news, you'll be able to see if the business you're entering has a labor violation it needs to resolve by this time next year in King County. Food inspectors will start flagging businesses that have unresolved labor issues on top of their usual food safety inspections. Today, the King County Board of Health approved legislation to do so. Board Chair Teresa Mosqueda spoke in favor of it.
If we are notified that there has been a verified and final labor violation that is unmitigated, not paid, and not under appeal, we should go out and at least make sure that that food establishment is serving and preparing food that meets our food and safety standards.
The new rule also requires inspectors to place a placard indicating an unpaid wage violation. The Washington State Hospitality Association opposes the regulation, saying it's unnecessary and shifts the core mission of King County Public Health. A hospital staffing update. Seattle Children's Hospital is planning to lay off more than 150 employees. And on top of that, could eliminate about 350 open positions, according to the Seattle Times. An email to staff says the layoffs are due in part to state and federal funding cuts. Most are administrative jobs. How you board the train in Seattle could get a revamp. Sound Transit's considering putting up fare gates at some stations, as in gates that you have to pay a fare to get past. Right now, stations have open entries and riders are expected to pay on the honor system. Fare ambassadors check once on board whether people have paid, but not on every trip. The Seattle Times reports a financial crunch at Sound Transit has its leaders interested in fare gates because right now, most of Sound Transit's money comes through car tab fees. We'll go out today on some sports notes. First, it is the biggest night of the season for the Seattle Storm. The Storm are in a must-win game in the WNBA playoffs against the Las Vegas Aces. They've split the 3-game series so far. Tip-off in Vegas is at 6:30 tonight on ESPN2. And in college sports, football season is in full swing, and student athletes at the University of Washington are getting paid. That represents a big shift, one that's been unfolding in stages since a 2021 Supreme Court decision. Joshua McNichols has more.
A few years ago, college athletes won the right to make money off their name, image, and likeness, their personal brand. This summer, the NCAA tightened the rules, and this fall, a University of Washington program called Dogs Unleashed is turning athletes, like football running back Jonah Coleman, into paid influencers. Here he is on Instagram.
I'm Jonah Coleman, and I'm running with T-Mobile. Let's go!
Licensing deals can vary from a few $1,000s to millions, but it's not free money. A national survey of athletes showed that some are sacrificing academics to work on paid social media content, and others are showing up late to practice. Joshua McNichols, KUOW News.
Hear more about pay for college athletes on the latest episode of KUOW's Economy podcast, Booming. Next time on Seattle Now, it's Casual Friday. The Etsy witch Spell by Luna was hired by a Mariners fan to fix the team's bad vibes, and some say it's working.
Luna said that we need to stay positive and accept the manifestation of the spell, and so you will not catch me doing anything but that.
Hear that tomorrow morning. And that's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See ya.